Hello, vinyl community. Bradley here. I have a question for you jazz lovers out there. Um, who is or was your favorite jazz composer? Just make a short list. Um, well, I could think of probably Miles Davis. He had a lot of really good songs. John Coltrane, uh, he's another candidate. And if you want to make this list a little shorter, how about Wayne Shorter? Um, he would be probably at the very top of my list. So I want to center on three of his albums that he recorded in one year in 1964. First, I'll just tell you a very brief overview of Wayne Shorter. From 1959 until 1963, he was a member of the Jazz Messengers with Art Blakey. During that time, he wrote a large quantity of the songs that were recorded by the Jazz Messengers. His songs are really melodic, very good. And then from 1964 until 1970, he was a member of the second great Miles Davis quintet. Coltrane was in the first version of the Great Quintet, and then from 1971 until 1986, he was a founding member, along with Joe Zawinul, the keyboard player, of Weather Report, the great jazz fusion group. And he is currently still playing. He's in his mid-80s, I believe. So he's one of the few remaining jazzers from the 60s. Now, for you people that aren't into jazz, you have heard him on probably quite a few rock records. He played, well, he's played with everybody. Played with Santana. If you remember Don Henley's album, The End of the Innocents, that song on there, I believe Bruce Hornsby might have played keyboards there, I think. But Wayne Shorter played the sax on that song. And of course there's Steely Dan. He played that sax solo on Asia, the title song. So, but I want to get back to 1964. In the year of 1964, within the span of 8 months, Wayne Shorter recorded 3 albums for Blue Note, and those were his first solo albums under his own name that he had recorded, and they were all for Blue Note. The first album was recorded at the end of April 1964. It is Night Dreamer. Okay, that was recorded the end of April 1964. The second album, which was recorded 3 months later, at the beginning of August. It is Juju. Now, the third album he recorded in 1964 was recorded, I believe, the day before Christmas of 1964, the end of December. And that was Speak No Evil. That was Wayne's wife at the time. And if you notice on all three of these Blue Note albums, it has the blue hue tinted covers, which I always loved. I think of these three albums as a almost like a trilogy, especially since they were recorded in the span of 8 months. They are very similar. It would be categorized as post bop. It would not be hard bop. These are not particularly ballads, but it's in the more, just a little more laid back vibe of hard bop or post bop at that time. So I will tell you briefly the members of his band on these recordings. On Night Dreamer, of course, you've got Wayne Shorter on sax, McCoy Tyner on piano, Reggie Workman on bass, and Elvin Jones on drums, as well as Lee Morgan on trumpet. So that was the first of these three albums that was recorded. The second album, Juju, basically has the same lineup, with the exception that they do not have Lee Morgan on here. There's no trumpet on Juju. Now on the third album, Speak No Evil, the lineup does change. Of course, you have Wayne Shorter on sax, Elvin Jones remains on drums. Replacing McCoy Tyner on piano is Herbie Hancock, and replacing Reggie Workman on bass is Ron Carter. And also on this Speak No Evil, you have Freddie Hubbard playing trumpet. So even though there was a band change in the lineup on this last album, the vibe of all these albums, I think, is very similar. Very, very good. Like I said, I told you when they were recorded. Now, when they were released, you'll be able to see where I'm going with this. Night Dreamer, like I said, was recorded at the end of April 1964, and it was released in the first part of November in 1964. Now, Juju, like I said, was recorded in early August of '64. Now, it was released 1 year later, in June of, or July of 1965. Now, the last album is Speak No Evil. Like I said, that was recorded in the end of December in 1964. But it was not released until a year and a half later, in June of 1966. So with these albums, they were all recorded within 8 months of each other in 1964. Now, when they were released one in each of the following calendar years. So Night Dreamer was 64, Juju was released 65, and Speak No Evil was released in 66. because it would make no sense in releasing 3 of these albums in less than 8 months. But anyhow, if you're getting into jazz, you got to have a Wayne Shorter album, at least one, and I would recommend even more. So you cannot go wrong with any of these 3 albums. Wayne Shorter has a very good sense of melody. I know with some jazz songs, sometimes it's hard to remember the melody. You know, you just get a general vibe, which these albums definitely give you a vibe. But on a lot of jazz, you know, it's hard to remember the melody. And these 3 albums, they are really great. Maybe later at night. They're not extremely upbeat like some of the hard bop, like Hank Mobley and Sonny Clark, Sonny Clark, and all those musicians. So, like I said, I would highly recommend getting at least one of these albums. So this is Bradley. I think I'll take the rest of the day off. So until the next time, we'll see you. Goodbye.